Digging through the past is not that hard. Rusted cars and broken shards, mining memories in an old wrecking yard. Echoes of laughter, whispers.
Welcome to the Wrecking Yard. I'm Jerry Wayne Longmire, and y'all are presumably still y'all. All are welcome here in the Church of Internal Combustion. We just ask that you show up with an open heart. I'm recording in the middle of the day today, which is a little weird for me anymore. What time is it? I don't know. Corvette o'clock. That's what I know. A little after 3. I have a show tonight here in Houston at the Secret Group at 7 p.m. The early bird special for the old folks. I like it though; gets me home at a decent time. So I have to go do that tonight, and that's all there is to that. Sorry, I'm a little frazzled right now. The damn dryer I fixed. I don't know. Feels like yesterday, but I guess it was a week or two ago. Took a shit again this morning when I was trying to dry my clothes a while ago. And I'm a little lost my cool. I just got back from the gym. And, you know, you come back from the gym, you got all this adrenaline and shit going still. And, boy, that dryer broke. I just snapped. I beat the piss out of that dryer. I mean, I beat the piss out of that dryer. I feel better, though. That's not true. I still got to fix the damn dryer. I don't know what happened with it. I think that cheap aftermarket tensioner broke. I heard something pop. Now the damn thing ain't spinning, but when you take the clothes out of it, it starts spinning again, which makes me think it's not got enough tension on the belt turning the drum. Who knows? I mean, there's only like 3 moving parts in the whole damn thing. I don't understand. Anyways, I'll cuss that dryer some more on my own time. Kim Moore can suck my balls. Whirlpool too, since they really made it. Every Kenmore's basically a Whirlpool, at least in them years. Hope you guys are doing all right today. No angry dryer. I was just talking last week about, it's nice to have a simple problem fix. And now here I am pissing and moaning about a dryer. See how quick that shit goes away? That's all right. I'll get it figured out. And I'll be thankful for the simple problem in my life. Been a lot of complex problems lately. One is, what in the shit? Boy, there's been some wild shit in my neighborhood. I'm pretty sure we caught a attempted drive-by on our Ring camera the other night. And boy, you want something to put you on edge. Being Rach were back in our bedroom in the evening, hanging out, watching some TV. I quit drinking. I don't remember when, 4 or 5 days ago, something like that. And not for like, not like, I'm going sober, I'm never going to drink again, or any kind of crap like that. Which, you know, if you need to do that, good for you. Sorry, I shouldn't make fun of that, but I just sometimes when things aren't serving me a purpose, I cut them out and just see what my life's like without them. And lately, alcohol hasn't felt like it's been serving me a purpose at all, you know, and I haven't really been enjoying it that much. Some of it's probably this medication I'm taking. It just kind of makes me not really want to consume things, food, drink, whatever, you know, which that's all right with me. But I just didn't feel like the alcohol was serving me a purpose right now. I felt like I was waking up too late, not getting everything I wanted to get done in my life every day, and was getting in the way on the days I wanted to go to the gym. I wasn't feeling quite up to snuff in the gym, and I'm gonna spend all this money on this medication. By God, I'm gonna be in that gym beating it up as much as I can to make this stuff work as well as possible. That's, you know, I've told y'all guilt and shame are good motivators for me. Well, if I got money invested in something, that's enough guilt usually to keep me motivated. So, but it's left me with a little free time in the evenings that I was spending on the porch drinking and, acting a fool and such. Sometimes just staring at the trees and drinking. I'm a grown up. I like to drink at home. But so we started a while back. We started binge watching one of my favorite TV series that's ever been made was a show called Supernatural, and it's about these two brothers that hunt ghosts and demons and all kind of stuff. And it's just a show I enjoy. They drive around an old '67 Impala, and I like shit out of that. And we were back there watching some of our Supernatural show. We're like back in the last season. If you do watch it, if you haven't watched that show, you decide to watch it. My advice to you is this: if you watch that show all the way up to the last episode and never watch the last episode, you'll think it's one of the best shows you've ever seen in your life. If you watch it all the way through, watch that last episode, you're going to be very disappointed. So just a little the word of advice from your old bud Jerry Wayne. Watch up to the last episode. Don't watch that. It'll be the best show you ever watched in your life. I'll say the same thing for the Blacklist. Up to the next last episode, and don't watch anything else, and it'll be the best show you ever seen in your life. Well, we was back there. We was watching some Supernatural and hanging out on the bed, and just kind of bullshitting. And of course, our bedroom's kind of by the street, and I seen the car go by. I seen the lights go by. It kind of looked like it was in a hurry, and we're almost at the end of the street, so we're like right, 4 or 5 houses past our house, and you're at the Hardy Tollway at the feeder, and there's a little machine shop down there, and then another little house on the corner. And this little, I've looked at it on the ring camera. It's like a Nissan Altima. Come zooming by it, right? Red flag right there. Nissan Altima. I don't know how they could afford a gun. Come flying by the house, stopped at the end of the street, and then, bah, 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 bah. Wow. Boy, big caliber. I went, looked at the ring camera, because it always records things. If there's a live event, and I got one facing from that. I mean, we haven't had any problems in this neighborhood, but it's historically a dangerous old neighborhood. It's had problems in the past. And I got a ring camera that points out there at the street. So, Rach pulled that ring camera up on our phones, and you can see the muzzle flash in that car. You can see the car light up. But I don't know what the hell happened because we stuck around. We sat around. I'm not a big call the cops kind of guy. That ain't my type of shit. I've not had great experiences with the law, even when called upon for help. So I don't really call. I don't call them for nothing. And it always amazes me when you hear people that are like really over the top police people, and they'll go, well, if you don't like cops, won't you call crackhead when you're trying? How about I just don't call anybody or just deal with the shit myself? That's the kind of shit I'm. I don't call the law. My family's just not, we're just not them type of people. That's not the type of people I come from. But I did wait around and see if I hear an ambulance or anything from my neighbor that lives down there. I don't know them very well. I've seen them a couple times, waved to them. They're friendly enough. They had a Buick G body sitting out there for a long time in front of their house, and I stopped and asked the guy if he wanted to sell it a couple times, and it was ragged. It would have need going through, but I thought, how much fun would an old 2-door G body be? And I asked him a couple times about selling that old Buick G body, and him and Hall wasn't going to sell it. And then came home one day and it was gone. And asked him what happened. He said he sold it. It kind of pissed me off, so I quit talking to him. So, I'm a petty son of a bitch. I'll be honest with you. Anyways, he said he sold it, so I hadn't really spoke to him since then. Just wave at him. I'm still friendly enough to wave, but screw that guy. But I did not want him to get shot, and I couldn't tell which way they were shooting the gun or if they were if it was an accident, somebody started firing the gun off in the car. I don't know, So we ran for an ambulance, went out there, walked up and down the street, didn't see anybody, didn't see no lights on nobody's house, and I hear nobody shrieking in pain or hollering or no kind of shit like that. And it's been about a week, and we ain't heard boo nor hear about it. No cops ever showed up, nothing. Of course, police don't come in this neighborhood after dark, anyways. They come over here and fundraise during the day, writing tickets and shit, but they don't come here after dark. So who knows? A mystery unsolved. Maybe he just got mad at the machine shop, wanted to shoot the machine shop. Maybe somebody shot somebody in that car. Don't know. I hadn't heard anything about it. Scoured all the ring reports. I saw several other neighbors report they heard gunshots through the ring camera, but nothing. So, but it kind of left me a little unnerved. I got all my guns out, cleaned them, just in case. Come around here acting a fool. We'll sure act a fool with you, by God. I don't have any sponsors still, but I got some people interested, so we may have a sponsor next week. We may not, but we don't have anything lined up this week. But of course, I always urge you to go out and check out my past sponsors and people I've worked with, Everyone Racers, Blair, and Motomancer on Etsy. Made my beautiful piston bookends. I don't know if you're going to be able to see them, but of course, Pulliam Stables. Check those guys out. Good bunch of folks. And our old buddy Jack Slavinka. He's still out there making his comic books. So make sure you check out old Happy Jack still. And I just like to spread the love. People I've done business with that I like. And I tell you who I did business with again just recently. My old buddy Tim Moss. If y'all been watching this podcast a long time before I had sponsors, I would just recommend my buddy's businesses. And my old buddy Tim Moss, we had a little mouse problem in the house. I thought I got rid of it, and then we kept hearing one in the walls. And called my old buddy Tim Moss out, and he come out and pest controlled them mice away for me, and I appreciate it. So if you need excellent service and pest control or wildlife removal, make sure you call Wildlife Removal Experts LLC. They're in Montgomery County, but they work all over Houston and Montgomery County. So if you're in one of them areas, you got you a problem, you got a critter in the attic, so you call Tim Moss, boy. He'll take good care of you. One company I would not recommend is K&N Appliance Repair. I had them come out and look at a gas stove. We got this old Bosch gas stove that belonged to my wife's grandmother, and we called them out, look at that damn stove and take a look at it. And I wasn't in the kitchen when he did it, but apparently the guy was dropping racial slurs in my kitchen, said the N-word a couple times. He was a Hispanic fella, but my kids were like in the next room playing. I was working on a video. Had I realized what he was doing, I'd have run his ass out of my house right then. I don't tolerate that kind of shit. I don't care if you do, I don't. I don't tolerate that crap. I don't tolerate it around my house. I don't tolerate it around my people. I have friends of all stripe and color and shape and sexual orientation, and people in my family of all shape, stripe, color, orientation, gender, ethnicity. I don't tolerate that shit. So if you do, good for you. But that ain't my type of shit. I'll run somebody out. I'll run somebody off in a heartbeat over that. But not only that, they charged me a $160 service call just to send somebody out, which, okay, fair enough. But then the dude wanted to charge me another $60 to clean out a tube that I already knew that there was something wrong with the tube because I already cleaned the tube out. And he did it without clearing it with me and then charged me, which, whatever, I pay my bills. I don't screw around. I paid the man. But also told him it was pretty unprofessional. When I used to go out and do jobs, contract stuff, there's a change order. If there's going to be a change in price, I would get that cleared before I did that. It's whatever, $60. Ain't a lot of money, but it's the principle of the thing kind of pissed me off. And the way he was behaving in my damn home. But then after that, he tried to convince my wife that there was an igniter that had low wattage on the stove, and it was dangerous. Blow up the house. $600 job, change this one little igniter out in the oven, which that may be a fair rate. I'm not an appliance man. It may be a fair rate to change out a $25 igniter that takes about 15 to 20 minutes to change out. That may be a fair rate. I don't know. I'm not an appliance guy. But it seemed to me like he was trying to bullshit my wife and sell her something we didn't really need. He left. I immediately went and got my voltmeter, my little multimeter, and checked voltage and everything on that igniter. Not a damn thing wrong with that igniter. Comes right on like it's supposed to. Starts that stove up just like it's supposed to. And I don't like a dishonest human being like that. And I called his boss the next day, and his boss swore up and down that he talked to him. He never said any of that shit in my kitchen, and that stove igniter was bad, and blah blah blah. And so I finally just got tired of wasting my time on that jackass and hung up on him. But I wouldn't do business with them people again. Not, I don't give a shit if they turn out to be the last appliance repair company in Houston. I will not call K&N Appliance Repair. So there you go. There's a sort of sponsorship and some unsponsorship for you right there. I told you, my family don't call the police. You know, it's just we just don't. It's not. You know, some people come from. Uh, there's different types of country folks, and a lot of the country folks around Houston and stuff seem to be the type that drive new F-350s with a thin blue line sticker on the back of them. And I come from the type of country folks that use Ford Rangers to do F-350 work and don't call the damn police. It's a different breed. Maybe poor country versus rich country. You know what I mean? Have-nots versus the haves. Strange thing. Been a good week, making good. I feel like I'm making good progress in the gym. I went to the gym today. I'm feeling better. Scale ain't changed much, but it ain't going up, which is good, and it's slowly going down. So we'll see. And everybody says, "Oh, if you're working out, and you're doing weights, don't worry about the scale," and that's fine. But I'm a bit of a freaking neurotic type person, and I'd like to see that scale start going down. I'm busting weights and doing cardio after weights. You know, they say that's when you're supposed to do it if you want weight loss and all that good shit. And we'll see what happens. But I'm feeling a lot better. I feel like I have more energy, and some of that may be, not drinking a fifth of Jack Evan Williams every night. But I do feel better. I feel like I got more energy. So we'll see. You worry about stuff as you get older. I get, you know, I'll be straight with you guys. I've been having a decline, and I've had my T checked and all that kind of stuff, but I've been having a decline in desire. You know what I mean? Like used to be, the wind blew just a little too hard, and I was ready to go hunt my wife down. And I feel some of that dialing back. To get older. I know it's the natural progression of things, and I don't want to do anything chemical to alter it, but it's a little disturbing when it starts happening to you. It doesn't make me feel like less of a man, but it makes me feel like, man, what the hell happened to you? On the other hand, I might get more done now if I'm not thinking about sex all the time. So, there's pros and cons. Pros and cons to turning the wheel, I guess. Maybe I'll get that dryer fixed right time if I ain't thinking about her ex. I'll tell you a little series of stories today. that we hadn't talked much about. I know I've mentioned it a couple times, but I've spent a good part of my career doing shows for the military. I like one of the things I really care about, or I didn't serve in the military. I didn't serve. I'm not a fighter. I mean, I have been, but it's not my type of shit. Um, Tried to join the military when I was 18. All my friends were joining. I wanted to join my friends. I didn't want to be left in A-Leaf by myself. And I went down there and signed up at the recruiter's office, at the Army recruiter's office, right there off Highway 6 in Bel Air. And he said, "Boy, he said, you're a little overweight. You're going to have to cut some weight before we let you in." I've always been a chubby bud. And I said, "All right." He had me doing all kind. I was wrapping saran wrap around myself and jogging around the neighborhood in a sweatshirt every morning, trying to cut weight and all kind of stuff he had told me to do. And I managed to cut a little bit of weight and everything. And it got time for, I went and took my ASVABs downtown Houston and did scored well on my ASVABs. Not great, but decent. And it got about time for all my friends to go. We were all getting ready to go, and they told me they didn't want me. They said they didn't say it was about the weight. They said it was about I'd had when I was 17. I had a bunch of surgery on my. I told y'all the story about the guys that hit me in the face with a baseball bat, breaking my nose all up. I had a pretty severe deviated septum. I had polyps all in my nasal canal, and so I had a surgery when I was 17. They went in and they cut my septum out. You can kind of see it on my nose sometimes now that I've aged. There's like one part of my nose sticks out a little farther. There's like a little line there, but they cut my septum out, the cartilage basically, and they replaced it with a piece of plastic. And then they went off of them nasal canal and pulled all them polyps. And very painful recovery from the surgery. Anyways, the Army told me because of that facial surgery that I had not listed on my paperwork that prohibited me from going. So there also wasn't any war going on at the time. So they didn't really need guys. I always tell you it was real funny about a few years later when all that shit in Iraq started back off. Boy, all of a sudden that old recruiter was calling my ass every day. "Hey, buddy, you still interested in joining the Army?" And I tell people by then I'd lived in A-Leaf long enough to know I didn't like getting shot at. And I was like, "No, I think I'm just going to stick with bartending school and see how that pans out." But I didn't serve. I didn't serve. Uh, I regret that sometimes. But I do come from a long line of military people, and given that when I first started getting the opportunity to stand up for the military, I of course jumped at it because to me it felt like a way to. You don't make much money doing it, but you it basically just pays the bills while you're gone. But there's a reward to it. There's a reward to going and doing it. For one, you get to see parts of the world most people do not, and you get to experience the soldiers on a different level. Not the bullshit walking up to a guy in a coffee shop buying his coffee and "thank you for your service," and that's all great and kind and wonderful. Um, but when you meet them on their own turf and you get to speak with them basically in their home for the time being, it's a different experience. You get to see a little more in depth what the military is about and what the people who actually serve our country are about. I do not, by and large, uh, support the last umpteen hundred years of imperialism and trying to police the world and sticking our noses in everything that goes on geopolitically. But I do support the people that go and sign up to serve our country. Those people mean a lot to me. I don't really give a shit about the government, but I do support the people that go and sign up for that job and put their lives on the line and put their lives on hold to go do that. It's not just about the danger they face, it's about time away from home and the time away from life and the time away from loved ones. That stuff all means a lot to me. If somebody gives that kind of sacrifice, then, at least I can do is get on a plane and fly over there and make them laugh as much as I can while I'm there. And I enjoy that a great deal. It's been a big focus for me, and I do bases here in the United States. Some of you may have seen me. Did a bunch of naval bases last year in Corpus Christi and was it something Pax River, just a bunch of them. It's something I like to do. It's something I feel very strongly about. But usually, when you get asked to do these military shows, or I will tell you at least what has been my experience in the last 20 years doing stand up, is you're going to the Middle East. You're going to some shithole. Been in Iraq, Kuwait, Bahrain, whatever that shit you want to call it. It's usually some terrible, terrible place in the Middle East. It's not. It's not fun. It's not. It's not some place that you would probably go on vacation, anything like that. But a little over a year ago, I got invited to go to Africa, which surprised the shit out of me because I did not know that we had troops in Africa. Um, I was a little confused. I asked the guys like, "There's no oil in Africa. What the hell are we doing in Africa?" Which didn't get a great response, but I was just a little surprised. But apparently, we had counterterrorism units all over Africa that were fighting terrorism in Niger and a variety of other places at the time. And I got excited. I said, "Boy, and I've always wanted to go to Africa as a place. The continent of Africa is, first of all, it's wildly diverse. There's all kind of shit going on there, from you know Egypt on down to South Africa. There's a lot going on that continent, but it's a place I've always wanted to go. I always thought it'd be neat. Now I didn't get to go to Kenya or anything like that, but still, I was excited to go. So I told the guy, I was like, "Hell yeah, man!" And I make the joke on stage all the time. I tell people all the time. I said, "Man, where are we going?" He said, "April." I was like, "Hell yeah, right before summer. It won't be too hot," because public education failed me. And I didn't know that other people had summers at different times of the year. Africa summer starts before April. It was very hot the whole time I was there. I should also mention that when I flew to Africa at the time, I was about 367 pounds. I was the heaviest I'd ever been in my life. Easily the most out of shape I'd ever been in my life. We were coming off the pandemic, and I spent a lot of the pandemic sitting around getting fatter, watching my dick get smaller. I was not prepared for that trip. It was a little rough on me. This was also after I had to fight the IRS for 2 years to get my damn passport back. Africa was started off with a bang. The morning we were supposed to leave to we were supposed to fly to North Carolina and then fly to Italy, right? And then fly on into Qatar, or as I like to call it, Qatar. You can everybody kept trying to convince me that place is pronounced Qatar, but you'll never convince me of that. Coming from where I come from, I know how to spot a hidden K. I'm real good at it. There ain't no K in that. That's Qatar. that morning before we were getting ready to fly out, all of a sudden all the alerts start coming in. Our flight's canceled. Our flights are canceled, delayed, canceled. We're not going to make it to North Carolina in time to catch a connecting flight to Italy. Problems. The guy I was going with, our fearless leader on the trip, my good buddy Slade Ham. You've heard me talk about him a lot. Slade Ham has done more military shows than I believe any other comedian in the United States. Slade Ham has dedicated the better part of his multi-decade career to doing military shows. The man has really done some service. He's been just about every base there is. I would be surprised if there's a base he hasn't been to. And at the time, he was running his own military shows and taking his own groups of people. He took me and a good buddy of mine named Chester Russo, who's originally a Houston comic, now lives in Brooklyn, New York, but very, very funny young man, tours all over the world. And a lady named Lisa Crowell. And Lisa Crowell is just a fan. I didn't know her before this trip, but she's just a fantastic lady. She's out of Florida. And she opened for John Panette for years, right up until he passed away. And John Panette is probably one of my biggest influences. I'm a big John Panette fan. As a young man, I spent a lot of time watching John Panette. I used to recite his act on command, make my mama laugh and her friends laugh. You've been here 4 hours. Eat like killer well. Like, I love John Panette. John Panette's one of my favorite comedians that's ever done the job. And you'll hear people criticize, oh, he just does fat jokes or whatever, but he was the master of them. He was the master of all that. The man could weave a tale. You won't go search John Panette and the trip to Italy. Is one of the funniest stories I've ever heard in my life. I've probably seen it 30 times, and I'm telling you, if I watched it right now, I'd piss myself laughing. He's one of my favorite people ever to do this job. So of course I was wildly interested to meet Lisa because she worked with one of my heroes for such a long time. I was actually booked to open for John Panette one time, and it's right about the time he got sick the first time, and he had to cancel the date. And then less than a year later, we lost him. I ended up working with Kevin Nealon instead, who was a super nice guy, and I ended up doing several dates with Kevin Nealon, and he was a great dude, but not quite as much of a hero to me as John Panette. Yeah. Uh, Slade has been all over the world. Slade was our fearless leader. So I got on the phone with Slade. He said, I'm working on it, trying to figure these flights out right now. Calls me back about an hour later. Meet me at Intercontinental Airport, take an Uber, uh, and save the receipt. I'll get you back. So grabbed all my shit, my luggage, everything I was going to need for 22 days away from home, which up until that point was the longest I had ever been away from my wife and my children. I don't I don't like being away from them that long at a time. And so I already knew it was going to be hard. Now, thankfully, communication has improved much, and my iPhone worked in a lot of places that we were going to go, but you don't know until you're there. Slade, of course, calls me back, meet me at the airport. I go to the airport, meet up with Slade, and they put us on a straight flight, no Qatar Airlines, straight to Qatar. We get off the airport there. Of course, we get picked up by MWR rep at the airport, and they take us to the air base there in Qatar, where we have a day or two to kind of sort ourselves out in the jet lag. A little bit of jet lag on a flight like that. And the very next night there at the base, we did a show for about 300 servicemen and women. Started that tour off with a bang. It was a hell of a show. all the foreign. Chase DeRusso was hosting these shows, and he has an energy about him that cannot be stopped. That young man can get up in front of the coldest crowd and turn them like that, get him on his side. He has just an ineffable sense of joy about his job and really tackles it. What's up, baby? Sorry, my one of my strays, Mary Margaret's over here poking around. You're just gonna get white hair on everything, aren't you? Cool. Appreciate that. Make sure you rub it all on the fucking. Oh, make sure you rub it all over the weed eater. I'll fix that in post. I don't ever fix anything in post. Yeah, the show in Cutter was good. It was kind of weird. We were staying in a dorm, like a old. It was kind of like a dormitory building that they weren't really using that much anymore. So it was a little had some smells, weird stuff. But when you do military show, you don't ever know where you're gonna be sleeping, so you just kind of gotta roll with the punches. But I did. They had like a little mall on base there where you could buy rugs and all kind of hats and gadgets and such like that. It's kind of like a big PX mall. It was pretty neat. I went and strolled off in there. Of course, found me a gym to go work out in. I was allowed to use the military's gym, but I was trying. I was already starting to kind of go to the gym, trying to kind of work some of that weight off. And Qatar is a strange, strange place. I would describe it. It's like if Muslims built Graceland. It's the wildest shit. I mean, they're just there's so much neon, and it's the tackiest shit you've ever seen in your life. There's so much neon and money. There, it's a very rich little country, and you can tell it. They spread that wealth in their buildings and everything. It's fanciest KFC you ever seen in your life. You know, the buildings and stuff downtown were wildly lit up. It was crazy looking. And also funny because they had Church's Chicken there, but it's not called Church's Chicken. It's called Temple Chicken, which I thought was kind of silly, but I get it. But it really showed me that hillbillies and Muslims really aren't that far apart. You know, we both like wacky beards, both like some fried chicken, both shouldn't be given too much money at any given time because we spend it in ridiculous ways. And we'll fight about our God and fan of livestock. So it was interesting. That little dichotomy there. Like, boy, if you could get them two groups together, they'd be a force to be reckoned with. You know what I mean? Wasn't for that pesky little savior belief in the middle of them. My buddy has often compared, I always talk about how different hillbillies are from rednecks, and my buddy often compares hillbillies and rednecks to the Sunni and the Shiite. Like, yeah, we fight amongst each other all the time, but if you screw with my buddy, man, we're coming for you. You know what I mean? We'll get together and raise some hell. We could stay there very long before we flew off to Ethiopia. My first time in Ethiopia. Ethiopia is one of the prettiest places I've ever seen in my life. Just beautiful mountains and just an incredible landscape of that country. We weren't in Ethiopia very long, just 5 or 6 hours. Long enough though for me to try. Uh, I've never been a coffee guy, so like most of my life, I just drank coffee because I just use it like a drug, keep you woke up. I worked in them offshore platforms and stuff, and all them Cajuns. They like community coffee. It's from Louisiana, and it's a nasty swill, but they like it, and so you drank a lot of community coffee in those jobs. Didn't think much about it. I never knew coffee could taste good until I went to Ethiopia, and my buddy Slade talked me into trying some Ethiopian Yirgacheffe coffee, and holy shit, it's the best thing I'd ever had in my life. I love it. I'm drinking some right now. Still my favorite type of coffee. A little harder to get right now because they're having some problems with supply over there, but That damn Yirgacheffe coffee set me off, man. It made me feel something. I was like, ooh, like yes. We hung out in Ethiopia for a few hours before they flew us into a country called Djibouti. And Djibouti is quite possibly the worst place I've ever been in my life. I mean, when you're coming in on the airplane and you're looking down on it and there's just blue tarps everywhere and ramshackle houses. I don't know what the GDP of Djibouti is. I probably should have looked it up before I started talking about it, but I think it's probably less than what I make in a month. The only rich person in Djibouti is the person ruling it. Everybody else there seems to be pretty poor. If you've seen my stand-up special, then you know that I got in a little trouble in that airport because they mistook Gold Bond powder for something else. Getting through customs in Djibouti was wild too. First of all, Slade, of course, told us, "Y'all sit over here, man. I'm gonna go get our visas because when you go into Djibouti, you gotta get your visa right there at the airport." He said, "I'm gonna go in there and get our visas." And he goes in the custom office. We're all watching. The custom guy says, "Yeah, the visas are $250 a piece, cash." Slade's like, "Of course they are." So he, of course, came prepared. He knew the deal. He gets the cash out to pay for these visas. And I saw him when he asked the guy, "Can I get a receipt?" And the guy just leaned back and put his legs on the desk and said, "No." And in the meantime, some other dudes come and talk to us. "Hey, you need to get on this bus. Hey, you need to get on this bus." I said, "I ain't get y'all been around a while. Y'all have heard another story about somebody trying to get me on a bus I wasn't supposed to be on. No, I ain't getting on no damn bus." These two, Chase and Lisa, they never been overseas like this for the military. Well, Chase had been one time, but they're still kind of new to it. And I told them, "Don't worry about it. We don't move till Slade tells us to move. We have our boss is here. Our boss." And that guy come over there again. "Come on, you gotta get on." He's trying to hustle us. He's trying to make a little money. I said, "Bro," I said, "that's my boss right in there in that customs office. I ain't going nowhere till my boss goes somewhere. So if you're in a hurry for us to get somewhere and get on some bus, I advise you march your ass off in that customs office and talk to him and that guy with the machine gun and see if you can speed things up." And seems like he didn't have no interest in doing that, oddly enough. He shut the hell up, went on about his way. Or Slade comes back out, got our visas. We got on a bus, take us out to the base. And that bus ride was eye opening, man. Just so many. I grew up without much. I grew up. I hesitate to say poor anymore after being to a place like that because that's a different level of poor. It's a different level of impoverished. There's a lot of people there that are not getting what they need, and you can see it. That country, I don't think things are going great there outside of the military base. Now, the military base is huge. It's called Camp Lemonnier, and if you're ex-military, you've probably been there at some point in your life, especially if you're Navy. Camp Lemonnier was originally a French base. It's now, I think it may be. I don't think it's a multinational force base anymore, but huge, huge base, very industrialized. And the thing I will tell you about military bases that I've learned over the years is the bigger the military base, the worse the food. And Camp Lemonnier did not disappoint in that. Them defects in there, boy. Go at your own risk, son. Go at your own risk. But I recommend you stick to a couple carbs and a little bit of meat that you can choke down. Don't try anything fancy. We had they had us in containers there. They had it was like a city of containers, and they had all these containers, and they were stacked up, 3 or 4 high. Little catwalks and staircases get up to them. They assign you a container, and when I tell you, like you walk in this, I'm a big fella. You walk in this container, There's a little desk and a little bed, and you cannot use the chair and the desk at the same. Like it's very small. Like when I would have to change clothes in the morning, I would have to lean the chair or push it up under the desk so I had enough room to change my clothes. And then of course there's a big dehumidifier in there. It was so freaking hot. I don't remember what the exact temperature was, but even hotter in Houston. And that dehumidifier, I didn't know because nobody told me, but you have to empty it out about every 7 or 8 hours because it gets full. And when it gets full, it just starts flooding the floor. I flooded my container the very first day we were there because nobody told me to empty the dehumidifier. Also, trying to empty the dehumidifier, you'll dump half of it on the floor anyways before you get it outside to dump it off the catwalk. But everything was wet. Your clothes are wet. You're wet. It's just a constant state of if when you're in that container, you're wet, and when you're out of it, you're sweating and hot. And we got stuck there. We were supposed to originally just be in Djibouti for a day, but we ended up getting stuck there for 3 or 4 days because they had some problems with the flight plans. We were going to do one show in Djibouti and then go to another place, but then that all got changed. And when you're on a base like that, now big industrialized base like that also has big gym, and they had a movie theater where you could go watch movies at certain times of the day they were showing. They had a little coffee shop, little green beans. I think it was Green Beans Coffee Shop, and the coffee shop had Wi-Fi. The containers did not have Wi-Fi, but the coffee shop had Wi-Fi. So if I wanted to talk to Rachel, I had to go over to the coffee shop and hook up the Wi-Fi and give her a short call and check in with her, which I was more than happy to do. It was a little bit of walk. It's weird when you're on a military base, just hundreds of vehicles, and nobody gives you a ride. You just walk everywhere you go. The PX was at the other end of the base. We walked down there one night. Uh, we did our first show in Djibouti and went very well. It was a great show. It was fantastic. We had a bang up crowd. They had a bar there where they give you drink tickets. Some soldier had gotten off base and got drunk and wrecked a car like right in front of the governor's house or the prime minister. I don't know, whoever's house. So people had gotten hurt, so everybody was on lockdown. Nobody could leave base. Usually in places like that, you can get some excursions and leave base, but we're not allowed to leave base at all, which is all right. They had plenty for us to do. When you do those, you go around and you go to where all the soldiers are, to whatever their job is. We went and met with the security guys in Djibouti, and talk to those guys, meet them, find out about what their job's like. Their job was pretty sketchy, and one of those guys is the one that gave me this paracord bracelet that I wear all the time. He was making them, and he gave me and Slade and Chase and Lisa one, and I think me and Slade have been wearing ours ever since. He was a good dude. He was a freaking neurologist, uh, and he had big plans. He was at the time he was just National Guard, and he was over there serving his last little run before he was done. And then when he came back from the National Guard, he was from Brooklyn. Him and his wife were going to move to Florida, and I hope they moved to Florida and are having a great life down there. He was a good dude. It's also a wild little experience walking around Djibouti. We went over to meet some of the different officers, and we got around to one part, and a Djiboutian dude. We're like outside the gate, and we're going to meet these security guys, and this Djiboutian dude, he's like a delivery driver, starts going, Jetty Wayne, Jetty Wayne, Jetty Wayne, look at my truck. Truck astrology done made it to Djibouti, bro. I was like, hell yeah, man. It was wild, and it was cool because a lot of the soldiers recognized me from truck astrology, and of course they were excited I was on base, and they would run up to me excitedly, and we'd take pictures, and they'd show me pictures of their pickups and stuff back home, and I'd razz them a little bit, give them a little taste, and have a good time talking with them. That first show was bang up, man. We had about 300 people in that bar, and we blew it out. They decided to do another show the next night. I said, well, I'm going to do different material. And then I got in trouble on that show because I said the F word about 3 or 4 times. And that got us a little heat. And I got told to clean my language up because Lord knows you don't want people getting shot at to hear the F word. Might corrupt their mind, you know. After that show was pretty cool. We smoked cigars with a couple with a little small unit of guys from Brooklyn and hung out with them. Had a hell of a time. And then next day we kind of had like a free day. We were allowed to do whatever we want, which is not a lot on base. We spent most of our time at the coffee shop just so we'd have access to the internet. I was actually working on some projects on my laptop, so I would take my laptop over to the coffee shop, work on some shit, buy coffee, and work on some shit. But one of the things we did do it was they had just got the movie Maverick, the Top Gun sequel, in their little movie theater there on the base in Djibouti. And so me and Slade, and he had never seen the flick yet. And I told him, I was like, disregard all your notions about what the first movie was. We all know the first movie is mid-'80s movie. It's great. It's great for what it is. But I had already seen it. It's like this is a different flick. And honestly, Maverick has some of the best acting I've ever seen in it by one particular person. And we went in there and we watched Maverick with a bunch of Navy guys, which was a hoot. Because, brother, boy, first of all, them calling out everything that was wrong was hilarious. Second of all, these guys got emotional. You're in a room with about 60 soldiers getting emotional about some of the parts of this movie, man. It was a moving experience. You know what I mean? These guys are away from their homes and their families, and this is stuff they know about. But one of my favorite scenes in a movie ever is there's very little dialogue, but there's a scene with Val Kilmer in that movie where him and Tom Cruise have a very stilted conversation about duty and such. And it's just Val Kilmer does more without saying anything than I think 100 other actors have ever done with a full page of dialogue. That 8 minutes of silence from Val Kilmer during that scene is one of the most poignant, beautiful scenes I've ever seen in a movie in my life. It's a weird thing to say about an action movie, but it's just absolutely incredible. Something there. I've been a big Val Kilmer fan for many, many years, but watching him deal with what's happened to him and still continue to push forward and just be one of the greats is a little mind blowing. Thankfully, by the end of that 4 days, they had decided to switch up our flight plan. They were going to send us to Kenya. So I was very excited. Not Kenya. Yeah, Kenya. Yeah, we did go to Kenya. I'm sorry, I said we didn't. We did. I was excited to go to Kenya because all I knew of Kenya was what I seen in the books. You know, I was like, man, that's where all the crazy animals are. Uh, what I did find out about Kenya, where we were going to Mamba Bay, and I just happened to be in the coffee shop. Decided I'd look up Mamba Bay so I could tell Rachel about it, where I was getting to go. And then I found out they had had a terrorist attack, a very deadly terrorist attack in 2012, and I opted not to tell Rachel about that. But it did unnerve me a little bit. We flew to Kenya on the back of on a C-130, which I like to affectionately call the F-350 of the skies. It's basically just a cargo vessel moving a bunch of shit around, and we just got to sit in the back, on some cargo strap. It's cold as shit, unpressurized. Can't remember how long. I think maybe 4 or 5 hour flight into Kenya, but not too bad. Cold as shit the whole flight. Land there at a little airstrip just a little ways away from the base. There wasn't much to see at the airstrip at the time, you know. Just you could tell you were in the jungle. You know, I got to see part of the bay when we flew in, looking out the little port windows on the aircraft, but couldn't really see much. But it was so hot. I remember getting off that plane from being cold and getting off that plane and just instantly. I'm not a big sweater, but sweat just pouring off. I mean, I'm ball suit swimming in it. I might also add my three companions are very fit. Lisa likes to jog 3 miles for fun because she's psychotic and bend her body in weird shapes doing yoga and shit. And Chase lives in Brooklyn and he walks about 15,000 steps a day on average, just getting to places he needs to go. Slade, 6 foot tall, has the longest legs of any human you've ever met in your life. He takes about a 4 foot stride. So everywhere we went in Kenya, I was about 100 feet behind him, just trying to keep up, huffing and puffing. Buddy, I was feeling rough. They, of course, get us in the little MWR truck, which was a delight for me because it was like a '96 Ford Ranger with a 3 liter like a 3 liter diesel in it and a snorkel. And I tried to convince that MWR rep to take us somewhere we could use that snorkel, but it didn't fly. He wouldn't go with it. He worked for Fleur Daniels, one of the people that build stuff for the military, and he did take the opportunity on that trip to tell us about all the animals that want to hurt you in Kenya. And spoiler alert, it is all the animals in Kenya. There are no friendly animals in Kenya. They all want to kill you and eat you. It was, I've told this story before. I may have told the story on the podcast. I don't know. You gonna hear it again. We were driving down the road and there were some of them baboons on the side of the road, the monkeys with the red ass. And they was kind of posted up, like they were all standing like like they might want some shit. I said, man, I'd like to get a picture of them. He said, oh, no, 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 no. He said, they're very aggressive, very violent. I said, really? He said, yeah, man. He said, about 6, 7 years ago, 4 of our Force Recon Marines, which are pretty tough guys, damn tough guys, thought it'd be funny to go out there and drug one of them baboons and put their unit shirt on it and take a picture with it. Uh, the Marines are good at a great many things. They're the first in, last out, very tough human beings. I've enjoyed entertaining the Marines over the years. They're some of the more raucous crowds and more fun crowds to entertain. Uh, Chemistry, science, and math, not high on the priority list a lot of times, though. And these guys messed up the drug that they mixed up to sedate the baboon. And the baboon woke up mid shirt installation and beat the shit out of 4 of some of our toughest Marines. Like put them in the hospital with broken limbs. And without missing a beat, I looked right back at that Florida Danger guy and go, how much them damn monkeys cost? Because it's got to be cheaper than a Marine. Seems like we put 100 of them monkeys on a plane, just drop them off somewhere and let them raise hell. You know what I'm talking about? He didn't think it was a good idea, but I've written my senators. When we got to the base, I learned that we would be sleeping in tents, which, uh, sort of thing you come to expect on military shows and stuff. So it's like, all right. But Kenya was kind of amazing. Kenya was, I am not lying 100% when I tell you Kenya was my favorite place on the trip. We spent 3 days at that base, 3 or 4 days at that base. And I was happy. It was another thing. Our flight plane got messed up. We had to stay there a little extra time. And I was honestly thankful. We had first of all, it's a small base. And when you're on a small base, the soldiers are generally very appreciative that you've come out there. Kenya, Mamba Bay hadn't had entertainment come out in about 4 years because of that terrorist attack and the rebuilding afterwards. So they were really excited to see us. I did get in a little trouble in Kenya. Uh, I found out the animals in Kenya were out to get me, for sure. We this is our first or second day in Kenya. We were walking around, and I had a pair of shorts on and my boots and tennis shoes, socks. And you walk everywhere on the bases. We were walking around in Kenya. No, I had long breeches on, but we were walking around Kenya it was the second day. It was after our first night there, sleeping in a cot in a tent. And I started feeling something burning on the back of my left leg, like right under my knee. Start burning. I told Slade, I said, hey, I don't want to worry you. No big emergency or whatever. We were going out to visit various troops. We were out visiting the drone guys. They were showing us how they put the drones together, how they launch the drones and fly the drones, and showing us all the different kind of drones they had for reconnaissance and getting rid of problems. Really interesting shit. It was pretty cool. We got to practice launching one. It was kind of cool. And I said, man, when we get over to this next little station we're going to visit, next group of guys we'll visit, hey, you do me a favor, go in the bathroom with me. I'm pull my britches down. Slade said, oh. I said, no. It's on the back of my leg. There's something burning on the back of my leg. I just want you to see it and tell me if it's something I should be concerned about. He said, all right. So we go in the bathroom. I drop trowel. Slade looks at the back of my leg and goes, oh, shit. I go, hey, man, we're in freaking Africa. Don't say, oh, shit, when you look at the back of my leg without telling me what the oh, shit's about. He goes, that's swelling up. I can't tell what it is. It looks like it may be an insect sting or something, but we need to get you over to medical and tell them, check it out. So we get finished with those guys. I didn't want to miss up those guys don't get a lot of visits. I wanted to make sure they got their visit and hang out, take some pictures of people. We get back over and, of course, go over to the medical facility and, of course, take the pants off and get on the damn gurney so I can look at this thing on the back of my leg. And the medical guy goes, oh, shit. I go, hey, man, y'all got to stop saying this. Y'all freaking me out. He said, well, he said, it's a spider bite. He said, but I got to get my little measuring stick so I can measure the fang marks. Now, I've been bit by spiders a lot of times in my life, over the course of my life, growing up here in Texas. Spiders are a thing you have to worry about. I've even been bit by a brown recluse one time. I've been bit by some spiders, but never once, as a medical professional, ever told me they needed to measure the fang marks. I never been bit by a spider so big that the fang marks were far apart they had to be measured. But he was trying to identify what spider bit me so he knew what to give me. And he measures the fang marks, and he told me, I think it's called a weaving spider. And I said, well, what do they look like? And he pulls a picture up on the computer to show me. It's a big damn spider that climbed up on me and bit me. Like, I don't know how I didn't feel this thing weighing me down or how this thing even got in my pant leg, but I am officially ready to duct tape my leg shut and not have any more of this going on. And it's starting to hurt now. It's hurting bad. And he says, I got something for you. And he cleans it up and everything and gave me a shot and then gave me another injection. And I go, what's in those injections? He goes, oh, they're super loaded with antibiotics and some other stuff. Got a little vague then. He says, what we give to soldiers if they get hurt outside the base, they get bit by an animal, or if they get shot or whatever. I was like, it's the same drug for everything. Getting shot, hyena, spider, same drug for everything. Bro, I don't know what was in this injection, but let me tell you something. That is the best high I've ever had in my life. I was on cloud nine the rest of it. We had a show to do that night. And when I tell you I was levitating when I walked my big ass up that stage, I was levitating, bro. We did a show outside. I was on fire. It was probably one of my favorite shows of the whole tour. You know, very easily up in the top echelon of my favorite shows of that tour because I was boy, I was wired up. I was riffing and going and bouncing around that stage. I felt like some kind of something. I did get a little bit of trouble there. You when you go do shows for the military, there's all the stuff you're not supposed to say, and all the stuff, and they give you 5 pages of what you're not supposed to say. You can't talk about the president. You can't talk about politics. You can't talk. I don't do a lot of that stuff. But then there's, you know, for a long time they had problems on the bases, and I'm sure they probably still do, with sexual assault. And so you can't make any jokes about that or any jokes about the posters. You're not supposed to. But what they did have is right there by the stage where we were doing the show, they had a big tent set up there, and there was a bunch of soldiers in there doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu, rolling as they call it, uh, with very little clothes on because it was hot. It was basically a sweat room, and I have a good friend who served in the military. He's a stand-up comic now named Bob Morrissey, and Bob left the army. Bob's a very open gay man, and I just got a big joke. I was like, my gay friend left the army, but if he had known y'all were going to be doing shirtless BJJ in the sweat lodge, he would have stayed in. And that got me in a little heat. A little heat. Wasn't supposed to bring that up or say anything like that. Soldiers laughed, though. That's all I gave a shit. They thought it was hilarious. We had a good time after that show. Commander of the base, of course, he was getting cigars from our good buddy RJ Witcher's uh, charity that he does called Cigars for Warriors. And he had a whole pack of these cigars and wanted us to smoke cigars with him, which we gladly did. And we had a couple, I can't remember what that African beer was we were drinking, but we had a couple beers and hung out with the commander of the base. And of course, took pictures. Everybody wanted to take pictures, and the soldiers were excited because they were getting a night off to kind of hang out, let their hair down a little bit. I was feeling good because I was on my cocktail of injections I'd been given at Med Bay. I didn't even feel my left leg anymore. I was having a great time. Yeah, Kenya was amazing. They have this tree on that base called the Tree of Wisdom. It's one of the biggest, oldest, gnarliest trees you ever seen in your life. There's a lot to see on that base. We spent a lot of our free time just walking around talking to soldiers, and if you got out to the edge of the base, you could look way off in the jungle, and that was pretty cool. And every morning, their little dining facility was just a little one room, and it just had a couple picnic tables inside it. And then they had picnic tables set up outside. And they got these little gray monkeys everywhere. These little gray monkeys are everywhere you look. They're hanging out in the trees. But breakfast served about 0600. We'd walk over and get a breakfast and go sit out there on a picnic table. And then monkeys know. They know what time breakfast is. And they start coming down out of the trees and walk around on the tables and looking at you. And I got tricked. I always tell everybody I got tricked by a monkey. I was the only dad in the group. And we're sitting there, and this little mama monkey, she jumps up on the table next to me, and she's got her little baby clinging to her. And I swear to God, she would get a little closer to me, and she'd hold that little baby down for me to see. And I was already missing my kids. She hit me right in the daddy ovaries. I got all worked up. I was like, oh, look at that little thing. I had my little tray of food right there. I was eating my breakfast. I had a waffle and some fruit and a little bit of sausage. She'd hold that little monkey down for me to see. And she'd move a little closer, and she'd hold that little monkey down for me to see. I pulled my phone out and started videoing her. This is the most adorable shit I ever seen in my life. Mama monkey, she must know I'm a daddy. She come show me her baby. And about that time, she sucked that baby up, jumped right on the table, took my tray of food, and run the hell off. I had to chase her down and get the tray because you don't want to let her litter. You know, I had to chase her down and get the tray back from her. By then, she'd already got my pear, my apple, and my waffle. I got tricked. I said, what do y'all do about this? They said, we got to be real careful of the monkeys. They learn quick. I go, what do you mean? He said, well, we used to have a bunch of gravel and rocks out here. And now we got wood chips. And I go, well, why'd you switch to wood chips? He said, well, He said, what we started doing is when the monkeys started pestering us for food, we'd pick up a handful of them little rocks and throw rocks at the monkeys. Then one morning, the monkeys all showed up with rocks and started throwing rocks back at us while we were trying to eat to run us off the food. He said, so we got rid of all the rocks. Now we got wood chips. After a while, the monkey stopped throwing wood chips. It was an experience for sure, man. It's kind of wild to eat breakfast with a monkey, hang out with a monkey. Yeah, Kenya was cool, man. We left Kenya. We flew back to. When we left Kenya, they flew us back to Djibouti just for a day, uh, and then we caught a flight down to Niamey, Niger, and we landed at the Nigerian airport there in Niamey, big airport, and that was we got in there at night. So I started having this problem every time we'd go through customs somewhere. I wear this necklace all the time. It's a necklace Rachel gave me. It's a Celtic axe. And Rachel gave it to me right after my firstborn was born. It symbolizes excellence in all endeavors, but most especially those that are family related and paternal related. Boy, every time one of them security guards, one of them airports saw this necklace, they start trying to get it off me, and I had to tell them, no, 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 no. You ain't taking my damn necklace, If you've traveled to foreign countries and abroad, you can get robbed in a heartbeat right there in the damn airport. Half the time by the security. We get through all that security. Of course, it's like 11 or 12 o'clock at night, and we go outside, and there must be 50 dudes out there trying to sell us bubble gum, trying to sell us gum and pens and little notepads, cigarette lighters. And you got to wade your way through them. Of course, we had MWR reps there and bulletproof cars. There's a bulletproof Mitsubishi Mondero, which was kind of crazy, man. Them doors must weigh 500 pounds a piece. It was kind of interesting, but we went out there and we got in the little Mitsubishis. They were going to take us to the base. While we're waiting to leave, after that flight cleared out that had just landed with us, and I hope it was like a commercial flight. That's what we did. We flew from Djibouti to Ethiopia, caught a commercial flight from Ethiopia into Niger. This is a commercial flight. So after all them people clear out and get their ride, those 50 dudes that were there trying to sell shit collectively got on 4 motorcycles and rode off. I've never seen that many people on a motorcycle in my life. It was the wildest. I've said that a bunch, but it was insane. I mean, there must have been 4 or 5 motorcycles between them. They all climbed on them motorcycles together in big heaps and rode off. I guess to wait for the next flight to come in and come back and try to sell some more gum and pens. Of course, we get to the base at Niamey. We're there for a few days. The shows in Niamey were just fantastic. They were outdoor shows either. Niamey also a multinational force base. Man, I got this out of order. Well, it doesn't matter. I'll go back and tell you about it. Niger was the last stop on the tour. But I'm forgetting about the stop in Egypt between then. I'll go back and tell you about that. But we get on we do the show in Niamey. That first show, it's just killer. We have a great time, of course, meeting all the soldiers at that base. It's like another little container city out there. But the weather was actually a little more tolerable. It was still hot outside, but the conditions inside the containers were much better. I wasn't sleeping good. In fact, I was so sleep deprived at that point, I was having auditory hallucinations. I literally sat in my container and had a conversation with Slade, who was not in the container with me, before I realized that and also had a conversation with Rachel that never happened. And luckily, we had Wi-Fi there, like inside the base. It wasn't very good, but it was good enough I could make a call home and touch base with Rach and talk to the kiddos. Yeah, Niamey was a cool base. After well, we did the show in Niamey. Now, Niamey also was a multinational force base at the time. Now there's no U.S. forces in Niamey. If you follow geopolitical news, you know we got ran out of Niger. Right after we left is when all that happened. In fact, there were stirrings about it while we were there. But that night we did a show, and of course there were German troops there, and there were some, I think it was Chinese troops, maybe. I may be wrong about that. Uh, there's a couple different countries there on that base. We did that show; they were all there, but the French were there. And we did the show. The show went really good, and Slade got on stage to close out the show, to headline the show, and the French troops. He was about 5 minutes into his act, and the French troops were all over here piled up on this big piece of equipment, and they all started stepping down and walking away. And I'll never forget, Slade made a joke. He goes, "Oh, the French are leaving. Who saw that coming?" And bro, the Germans and the Americans lost their shit. Slade was worried all the next day, like, "Oh man, I think I getting some shit about that one, you know." But nothing come of it. We had a good time in Niamey. The soldiers there were great. Our contacts there were great. In fact, after that show, the special forces guys that were there asked me. They were all. It was a unit out of Florida, a bunch of special forces guys and old vets. They've been in the business a while, and special forces guys kind of had their own little base within the base, their little living area. They had a big old wood porch on it and had it all fixed up. And they said, "We know you can only have a couple drinks here at the bar because they give you drink tickets, but we got our own little stash, and you get done with the show, you want to come hang out with us, you can come hang out with us." And so the other two didn't want to go, but me and Slade, of course, took the opportunity to go hang out and drink with the special forces guys. Slade has a motto about these trips: just say yes. And I for one, am glad I took his advice, because I had a great time drinking with the special forces guys. We sat on the porch over there, and they started busting out some good bottles of bourbon. We had ourselves a time on that porch of the special forces living arrangements, and then had to drunkenly find our way back to our containers afterward, which was kind of fun, wandering around a base in the middle of the night. After Niamey, they flew us down to Agadez. Agadez is the trip to Agadez is the story I tell on stage about the smallest airplane ever been on my life. I made a joke about it, but I really was terrified the entire time. It was a tiny little plane. They really did weigh me and tell me where to sit, and didn't weigh any of my friends. They just, my big ass, they weighed me and told me where to sit. And Agadez was cool. Agadez was like somebody built a city in the middle of the Saharan desert out of containers. It was really, really interesting. And I ended up making very good friends with a former Marine who was there working security detail for the Air Force. A guy named Jerry, man, another dude named Jerry. He was a redneck dude from New York State, and we ended up we still remain friends today and communicate often. He's back home in the States working as a law enforcement officer now. But we had a good time hanging out with him, man. We really he was a cool dude, and the show in Agadez was absolutely insane because they, of course, another base had not had any entertainment, and we had a good the whole base turned out for that show. And we were just did the show off the back of a flatbed truck under a big tent, and it was like I don't know, if any of you grew up religious, but I grew up going to tent revivals. It was like being at a tent revival. People just crowded around, and again, I had just a bang up show that night and was feeling really good about it. We are going to have to fly out the next morning, like 6 in the morning. Just after the show, we go and there's a young soldier there, and I'll never forget this little act of kindness he did. But we went in the PX, and I was going to buy some cigars for me and Slade and Chase to smoke after the show. This was the last show of the tour, and I just wanted to show my appreciation. But when I saw the price of what those cigars were, I was like, "Ooh, I can't afford those. I'm not buying those. They were kind of expensive, and I didn't have a bunch of money on me." Well, that soldier that was escorting us around, then he must have had the connect or something. Maybe he bought them with his own money. I hope he didn't, but he may have. But he was so excited about us being there. He was a fan of what we were doing that he showed up later at the when we got over to our living arrangements or staying arrangements. He showed up and he was like, "Hey man, I got those cigars for you." And I was like, "Dude, you can't do that, man. Soldiers don't make a lot of money." He goes, "No, I wanted to." And I felt like I needed to accept them. I didn't want to offend the young man's pride. And I was very gracious and accepted them, thanked him. Of course, we took a bunch of pictures together and stuff. And went and got us a nap before that show. That night, we were going to do that show, and went and got us a nap, tried to catch up with some sleep. And of course, got done my nap. I got up. I'm an hour before showtime. I'm a live wire. I'm ready to go. And I stepped out of my little facility, and the commanding officer of the base just happened to be walking into getting ready to go into his facility. He said, "Hey, you're one of the comedians, aren't you?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Are you the truck guy?" I go, "Yeah, I have a online series called Truck Astrology." He goes, "A lot of my guys are really excited to see you." I didn't know why. Made me laugh. I was like, "Well, thank you for that very strange compliment, sir." He was a good dude, though. But we went and did the show. Incredible show. Get done with the show. Of course, we go smoke our cigars in a little smoke tent out there. And then I go back to the bar on base because they're excited that we're going to be there and they're wanting everybody to drink and have a good time. But everybody else is a little tired. So Slade and all of them go back and get some sleep. I realize I'm probably not going to sleep very well. So I go back over to the bar and hang out with my new Marine buddies. All these guys on the security detail are former Marines. And I'll tell you this, I saw two Marines suck whiskey out of a tampon. That's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. I'll never share the video because, I don't want to screw the guy's privacy, but it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. And it showed me a little more about the bond these guys make. And they were all hyped about us being there. They said, "Hey, man, do you want to go ride razors in the morning out in the desert?" And I was like, "Hell yeah." I'd seen those little Polaris razors all over. The ones they got are pretty cool. They're diesel and they're all hopped up. I was like, "Shit, yeah, I'm down for that." He said, "Well, tell your friends, tell them if they want to go to be up at 5 a.m. and meet us outside. We'll come pick you up." So I go back there, of course, tell everybody's still kind of awake. I go, "Hey, guys, they've invited us to go on a ride in the desert in the morning." And I already said, "Yes, I want to go." They said they'll take us right to the airport when we're done. We'll be back in time to catch our flight. But they want us to go see the sunrise in the Saharan desert. I really want to go. They want to know if we want to go ride these razors in the desert. Slade, of course, jumped, "Yes, yes." Lisa, "Yes, yes." Chase, "Sure." Chase looks perplexed. He doesn't say anything. So next morning we get out, we're standing there waiting for them to come pick up on the razors. We got our bags and shit. And they pull up on these Polarises, and Chase goes, "Is that a razor?" I go, "Yeah, man. Did you not know what I was talking about?" He goes, "No, I thought you were talking about the scooters." And I was wondering how we were going to ride scooters in the sand. They put us on these razors. I was riding with old Jerry. Jerry's crazy as shit. His redneck freak flag come out. I've got video of me with that razor just hanging on for dear life, boys, sliding across the desert. We had a ball. And they took us out to this little place they call Pride Rock. And it's just a rock that everybody likes to go out and sign. And we went out there and we signed Pride Rock and we watched the sunrise in the Sahara Desert. And how many people get to do that shit? You know what I mean? It was magical. Of course, we took some pictures of the razors and stuff, and then As prescribed, they dropped us right back at the airport, ready to catch our flight back on that little tiny airplane. Of course, coated in Saharan dust. I was home about 2 weeks before I got all the dust out of the clothes I was wearing that day. I mean, coated, beat on them razors, open face out there in the desert. So we flew back to Niamey, spent a couple of days in Niamey before flying back to Djibouti, and then catching a flight back into Ethiopia to start making our trip home. But what I neglected to tell you, what I meant to tell you about was so in between when we got back in Kenya, we flew into Ethiopia, and then they flew us into Egypt. And Egypt was pretty cool. So what we got was like mid tour. It was about 11, 12 days on the tour. We got a little break because where we stayed in Egypt is a place called Sharm el Sheikh, and we stayed at this big resort in Sharm el Sheikh rather than staying on the base. And I'm talking fancy. Sharm el Sheikh is a widely known tourist destination, uh, and beautiful hotel, beautiful resort. A lot of Russians. Apparently, Sharm el Sheikh is like the Destin, Florida for Russians with a little bit of money. And Russians, by and large, what my notice of them at this place was, very confident about their bodies, even when maybe they shouldn't be. A lot of men my size wearing speedos. A lot of women my size wearing very small swimsuits that were hard to tell they had swimsuits on. Yeah, the buffet at the hotel sucked because they mostly catered to Russians, and you go down for the buffet in the morning and it was all cold cuts and fish and weird shit. There was one guy making omelets, and I just went straight for the omelet guy. But look, all kind of pastries and other stuff too, you know. Yeah, the reason we were in Egypt is there's a multinational force base in Egypt too, and part of it, South Camp, is right there in Sharm el Sheikh, and there's a natural reef that goes around it and everything. It's you know, the Red Sea is beautiful. It's gorgeous. Big snorkeling destination. Of course, we're going to be there for a couple of days, so I was like, man, I was like, have you ever just decided you can still do something because you used to do something? Well, 367-pound me decided that because I liked snorkeling when I was younger, I could handle snorkeling in the Red Sea. And I jumped my big ass off in that water, and for the first time ever, I didn't float. I went straight down. I didn't float for shit. I damn near drowned for about 15 minutes. I had a full on anxiety attack. It's beautiful stuff. When you stick your mask underwater, the reef was beautiful, the fish were beautiful. But boy, I couldn't wait to get my ass back on that dock because apparently I wasn't in snorkeling shape anymore. I bobbed up and down like a bad fishing bait. I think Slade really thought he was going to call my wife, tell her I drowned in the Red Sea. And we go over to South Camp, and we did like a little tour of the base and everything. And they said, we're going to send you to North Camp first to do the show. Well, so North Camp of this multinational force base is on the Sinai Peninsula, and it's so they can keep an eye on the Gaza Strip. If you go to the farthest point on this base and go up an observation tower, you can see the Gaza Strip. And it's wild because if you know just even a marginal little bit about history and the history of the world, the Sinai Peninsula has been home to so many militaries throughout the beginning of time, marching through there to gain conquest and gain land. It's a wild piece of land to be on. And we had a good time. Well, that base was crazy because they have like 16 different nations there. And we went out and we met with the guys, and they took us out in MRAVs and shit. We went all around the base and got to have a little fun in the MRAV. Of course, they let us check out all the weapons and all the stuff they had, and they were a good bunch of fun guys. They they were excited about the show. They said, after the show, we're going to take you to the best place on base to have a drink. All right, man. Of course, we do that show on North Camp. There's Australian troops there. There's British troops there. It was crazy. It was a fun show. It was like in a little bar. It had like a library. And dude, I don't know how many drinks the Australian guys bought me, but I drank every one of them. The Australian guys loved my act, and they just kept bringing me drinks, and we were having a good ass time. And then as that started to peter out, them guys from earlier from the security forces go, "Hey, come with us. We're on a mission. We're not really supposed to go over here, but we're going." And there's a reason I ain't used none of these guys' names, because they took us over to the Colombian part of the base, and the Colombians, it looked like a Mexican food restaurant in Texas when you walked in. It had a little archway and everything, and there's a bar, and there's a big TV with music, showing music videos and music playing, and they were listening to country music. Like right, we walked in the bar, and the guy said, "What do you drink?" I said, "Jack Daniels," and he goes, "Okay, I'll bring it to you." And I was like, "Cool." And I went and sat at the bar with my good buddy Slade, these other soldiers, a couple of these Colombian soldiers, and this guy walks over and sets a bottle of Jack Daniels down in front of me and a glass. Well, buddy, that's an open invitation, son. We start going through it. We're getting our drink on, having this good time. It was kind of wild at some point at some point, me and Slade and a couple soldiers from Pennsylvania and about 6 Colombian soldiers from Colombia were all singing David Allan Coe, "You Never Even Called Me by My Name," in unison at 3 o'clock in the morning on the Sinai Peninsula, in a place where, even Genghis Khan's troops had been and probably celebrated. It was a wild moment, It was one of those things you're glad you said yes to. Of course, once again, me and Slade have to make our way back to our living quarters drunkenly on this foreign base. It was cool, man. I also saw one of the neatest things. They had our rep there, she was from the Tongan military. And the Tongans are big people. They're very, very big people. Right. Uh, and some of her friends, like I was like, I never thought I could fit in a military uniform before until I saw the Tongan military uniform. These are big dudes. And we go into the dining facility in the morning, and they're making omelets. And you go up, and he says, 2 eggs, 3 eggs. And I said, give me a 3 egg. I'd give me a 3 egg omelet. He puts it on my plate, on my tray. They get me, some juice, a little toast stuff to go with it. The guy in line beside me is one of the Tongan military dudes. He's a big old dude. He says, "You want the usual?" He said, "Yes, sir." And he just hands him the tray. And this guy cooks up a 12 egg omelet and puts it on that tray. It's crazy. It was just a big mass of eggs. And that dude sat at the table right next to us. And the time it took me to eat my little 3 egg omelet, homeboy had scarfed this tray full of eggs down. I did not want to sleep in the same tent with these dudes. That's going to be ferocious later. I never seen anybody could eat like that and not spill a drop, bro. He was a neat eater, man. Just plowed through it. It was a good time, man. We enjoyed that base. And the Czechs actually flew us to that base on one of their aircraft. It's a Spanish-built aircraft called a Casa, and much like a C-130. But when they wheeled that thing around at the end of the airport and hit the gas, it was like being in the back of a dragster, dude. Like that thing just slammed you back into the like. Woo! I was hollering. I was having a good ass time. And when they come in to land, they stayed so low for so long. I could have counted the goats in people's backyards. I was worried about telephone poles at some point. And they flew us back mainland Egypt to Sharm el Sheikh, and we had a little time at the resort. Of course, we all went to the pool and hung out. Slade went and did some scuba. He's scuba certified. He went and did a little scuba diving. Me and Lisa and Chase all went down to the swimming pool, had us a good time. It was Ramadan while we were there, so it wasn't a lot you could do outside of the resort, you know. I did order, so all the liquor there was Russian, and I ordered a bourbon, not thinking about that, and tried Russian bourbon. Whew, it was not their strong suit. I think that was just vodka with some brown food coloring in it. It was maybe a splash of Coke. It was rough. We had a good time hanging out at the pool and stuff. Nice little break in the middle of the tour. We did the show at South Camp that night. That show was a blast. They were a good bunch of people. Of course, took pictures, all that good stuff afterwards. And then that's when we flew back to Djibouti and went on to Niger. Which crazy thing when you do these shows for the military, a lot of people don't know this, is that the military kind of has a rule that when it comes to commercial flights, they only deal with American airline companies unless they absolutely have to go outside of airline companies from the United States. So we didn't get no quick trip. That flight straight to Qatar, that was just a little bonus. We got off lucky on that one. That flight back, it took us close to 30 hours to get back on American soil. We flew to Ethiopia. We hung out in Ethiopia for a little while. Then we caught a flight from Ethiopia to Fiumicino, Italy. Got to Fiumicino, Italy at like 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning. Spent some time in Fiumicino. Lisa actually had relatives in Fiumicino, Italy that came and picked us up from the airport. We had a good time with them. Her uncle or cousin and her cousin's sister. They were just a blast. We had a good time. We went out, walked up and down the beach and stuff, and had actual pizza in Fiumicino. I had potato pizza, which was wild. It was one of the best things I ever had. It was so damn good. Then, of course, we go back to the airport and we catch a flight from Italy to North Carolina, to Charlotte, North Carolina, and then a flight from Charlotte, North Carolina back into Houston, Texas. I've never been so happy to be in an Uber in my life, to catch that Uber, come home with my people. I was 21 days of fried out. And some weird shit happened to me when I got home. I wonder if it was from that shot of those antibiotics or his reaction to that spider bite. But right after I got back from Africa, dude, my hands, like all the skin on my hands peeled off. And then all the skin on the bottom of my feet peeled off. Like just got loose and peeled off to the point it was painful. Like it took me, my hands are just now starting to get calluses back. Like it took my hands down to being like baby fresh red brand new hands. And the same thing, I don't know if I got any pictures of it, but same thing with my feet. It was the craziest shit in the world. It was painful to walk. And I don't know if it's a result of that spider bite or them antibiotics or what the hell. But I was having all kind of problems. My legs were swelling real bad. We did 19 flights in 21 days. My legs were swelling. I was having all kind of issues. And that's what I always tell people is that trips when I came home and got serious about, hey, I got to lose some weight. I'm getting into dangerous territory where I'm worried about my heart and shit like that. But an amazing experience. I'm always looking forward to my next experience with the military, that I get to go out and do something, because it's meeting the guys, spending time with them. It's been one of the great fortunes of my life, is having those experiences. And I've made friends that I'm still friends with. Some of them, close to 20 years all over the world. I have a great number of friends that are active duty and former duty, and wouldn't trade those friendships for anything in the world. I think it's time to do some testimonials, if you will. Some comments from last week's podcast, where I told an excruciating long story about the life of a cat. Let's see here. At Ariadin, amen. I sure missed the days when I only had two issues. They both involved cleaning, and the only difference was which end of me needed it, top or bottom. Good news. I hear the older you get, the closer you are to those days coming back. Brother, I miss the simple days too, but I ain't in a hurry to get back to them either. Not at least not that way. Little Matthew kind of time's a circle, man. Yeah, and I don't know what part of the circle I'm on. I'm hoping I'm in the middle part, and I got a lot of circle left. Working at it, but I understand missing the simple life. But as complex as it is, and it all can be, I'm very thankful for the things I've got and the way my life is going these days. I may have some exciting news next week. I'm waiting to hear, but if you got some positive juju or whatever you send my way, I sure appreciate it. I've waiting to hear something that could possibly be very exciting. At Esteban Benabez, I hope I'm saying that right. Esteban Benabez. Worst thing an animal has done to me is make me care so much about them. Hearing what Tina was doing is a whole lot to hear on a rough week, but it feels better to let it out. Great vid as always, man. Boy, I am right there with you with them animals. And now I'm like soft hearted about I got all these strays around. I got a possum that comes around, a couple squirrels that hang out. I just and the thing about these stray cats is every once in a while, I had one for a long time, Sir Felix, and Sir Felix met his end in glorious battle against what I assume was an automobile, and he was a warrior kitty. Yeah, man. I'm telling you, dude. I tell y'all right now. It probably won't be another dog in my. I'll be real surprised if there's another dog in my life after losing Tina. That one. That one. I was too wrapped up in that dog. That broke my heart in a million pieces. Thanks for the compliment, brother. At Pam Rigotti. I hope I'm saying that. Pam Rigotti 8767. Totally, honestly, feel this story. Well, that leads me to believe that you've had to say goodbye to a furry loved one too, Pam. I hate to hear that. But, sometimes these stories are going to be about cars. Sometimes these stories are going to be about me. Sometimes these stories are just going to be about some episode of time. I don't know why I felt compelled to tell those stories about Boo Kitty, but I was just thinking about it and what a cool cat he was. I was like, I think a lot of people probably made a friendship with an animal like that over time, like where you don't just start out as friends, you have to earn it. And I'm always very thankful for my time with that cat and him changing my perspective on cats. That's our testimonials for the week. Of course, as always, appreciate you guys sharing your Sunday with me. I have don't got a lot to add. It's been I'm a little taxed. I'm writing a lot right now. Some of you guys that follow on Facebook know I'm doing the little short story thing, and think about doing something with that. But it's so funny when people read my writing and they come up and they're like, "Oh man, you must have been great in English. Your English teachers must have loved you." No, they did not. In fact, I was a terrible, terrible, terrible student. I spent most of high school in trouble and just getting by with C's and B's. I had one creative writing teacher who inspired me a lot, a guy named Mr. Hollis, and he always liked my writing and pushed me really hard. But it would be funny for me to see the look on Mrs. Gerard's face if she knew I was making my living writing nowadays, because she wouldn't have believed it back then. I wish somebody could find Miss Gerard. Be like, hey, you believe this idiot making his living, churning words out, making people cry, making people smile? Anyways, just a little aside there. Thank you guys for sharing your Sunday with me. Of course, I'm rooting for you. Tell you that every week. Mean it every week. I'm rooting for you. Whatever you're trying to do, whatever you want to do, I hope that those things are going well for you. I hope you're meeting some goals, even if it's as simple as just wanting to go to the gym more. I hope it's working out for you. I know it ain't easy. You know, I've been steady going back for about a month every other day now. And it hadn't got no easier yet, but I do keep going. Hope whatever you're trying to do works out for you too. Got your back. Y'all got mine, and that feels pretty great. I'll see you guys next Sunday. I'm JW. I love you. I'd while away the hours, conferring with the flowers, consulting with the rain. Life would be so merry, things would be a king of dairy if I only had a brain. I would not just be a nuffin', my head all full of stuffing, my heart all full of pain.